All right, today we're going to do this really cool painting of Claude Monet's water lilies. It's so much fun. You don't need a lot of things. It's things that you have around the house. I have the end part of a stalk of celery. Yes, boys and girls, we are painting with food today. I also have the top of a piece of celery, so they're going to give you two different types of prints. The bottom part of a head of romaine lettuce, I did rubber band both the celery and the lettuce together so that it holds nice and tight when I go to dip these in the paint. And you can also use flowers. So yesterday was Easter and we dropped off a bouquet of flowers to both sets of grandparents for Easter. I stole a flower out of each bouquet. The daisies and the carnations are the best kind to do prints with. You will also need a ruler, any kind of ruler, metal ruler, wooden ruler, plastic ruler. You really just need something that's going to be the length of your paper and a nice flat straight edge. You will also need lots of bright colors of paint. So I've got green, pink, orange, yellow, purple, and red. And you will need the blue for the water. So lots of bright colors of paint. If you don't have all of those colors, that's fine. If you just have a few of those colors, use those. Again, this is on that heavy-duty thick watercolor paper. However, if you don't have access to the thicker paper, regular paper works the same way. I'm going to set that aside. Here is our nice clean paper. You will need to cover your workspace this time. I don't always cover my workspace because this is my craft work art table. So it doesn't matter if it gets messy, but you probably will get a little messy doing this project. So go ahead and cover your workspace. And I just took a couple pieces of construction paper to cover my workspace. You will also need like a cloth or a paper towel to kind of get some of the color off after you use them, but it is really cool if the colors mix. All right, so we're gonna get started. I've got my paint tray. You can use, this is just a styrofoam plate. You can use any kind. You can use a paper plate. If you don't have a paper plate, actually a regular plate will work just fine because it will wash off. So if you don't have access to a paper plate or like a styrofoam tray like this might be something that you would get meat on from the grocery store that you could just rinse off soap and water and use that. But if you don't have that, you can use a regular plate as well. Even just a plain piece of cardboard would work to put your paint on. All right, so let me show you what these kind of things do. So this is the end of the celery, and we're gonna dip it in the pink. We're gonna make sure that it's pretty much covered. Then you can just stamp it like so. You can take it and spin it. It kind of looks like a cool flower. I'm gonna dip it in a little bit of red now, and I'm gonna go over this one with red, and I might take it and spin this with a little red too, so that it kind of blends and mixes the colors. You can just wipe this off and it's ready to dip in another color, but I'm going to use something a little different for the next color. So this is that head of lettuce, at the end of the lettuce, and I'm going to use it for yellow. And this edge isn't really flat, so it's not going to set on the paper as flat as this did, but it's still going to look really cool. So I'm going to stamp it, and then I'm going to spin it and stamp it again. So it kind of looks like a really cool, unique, different kind of flower. I'm going to take this and I'm just going to dip it in the purple. I'm not even going to wipe it off, and I'm going to stamp it again. And now I might take it and spin it with the purple and yellow on it over here. When I'm finished, you can just wipe off that paint, gets most of it off, and set it aside. All right, the single thing of celery is really cool. you just take it and you can stamp it in a circle and it looks like a star flower. You can also build on that and stamp in between it. You can also take another color and stamp in the middle of it, or again on the outside of it, so that it looks like a flower. And you just wipe that off and you can use it in another color. All right, so that's the celery and the lettuce. That's the food. Gives you lots of cool different things. Let's do the flowers. So up first is this beautiful white daisy. It's not going to be white for very long. We're going to dip it in this bright lime green. You don't need a lot of paint on it. And it doesn't matter if not every petal is covered completely, but then you're just going to turn it upside down and you're going to gently press the petals down, press the middle down, and pull it up. There's enough paint on here where I could do that again. So I'm just going to do that one more time, press the center, and pull it up. Pretty cool, right? It kind of looks like a daisy that's stamped. All right, the carnation. This is really cool. It's not an even surface as well, so it's gonna kind of give you a different type of texture. I'm gonna dip just the tips of it in the orange, and again, the whole flower does not have to be covered in paint. It just have to have a little bit of paint on it. And I'm just gonna dip it upside down, maybe spin it a little bit. And I think this needs a second color. So I'm gonna kind of wipe off the orange just a little bit with my towel. And I'm gonna dip it in the yellow. And we're gonna go back inside this orange and we're gonna put some yellow in there. All right, we have filled our paper with lots of cool flowers. You have to kind of let it dry. You don't want it completely dry. You just want it to where it's not super, super wet. If you do the next step and you don't let it dry, you're not really going to be able to see the definition of your flowers. All of your flowers are going to smear. But if you let it dry a little bit, you'll get some color that's smeared, but yet you'll still be able to see your flowers. And that's exactly what Claude Monet's water lilies look like. It looks like his flowers are underwater and they're kind of smeared underwater. It's really a beautiful painting. So I have one that I did a little bit earlier that's probably, it's still a little wet, but not too wet. So I will show you how we're gonna do this next part. This is the blue. I've got washable tempera paint. You can use any kind of blue paint that you have around the house. It's best if it's a little thinner. So if you're using an acrylic paint that's a little bit thick, you might want to add a little bit of water to it, shake it up so that it's a little bit thinner. If the paint is thinner, it's going to slide across your paper a lot easier. What you're going to do with your water now is you're going to run a line of paint down the left-hand side. It does not have to be a perfectly straight line. Mine's got a little wave to it, but you want to have enough paint on there to where you're going to be able to push it all the way to the other side. I'm going to add a little bit more because I want to make sure that I have enough. All right, I think I'm good. So now here comes the ruler. Again, wood, metal, plastic, it really doesn't matter. It just needs to be longer than the paper and it needs to have that flat edge. And you don't put your blue paint right on the edge of the paper. You want to be able to hold the paper with your fingers, and you also want to be able to lay your ruler on the paper before the paint. You're just going to hold the ruler really tight, really sturdy against the paper. You're going to kind of angle it so it's not straight up and down. It's going to be at an angle, and you're just going to take and you're just going to smear that paint all the way across, just like so. Now I've got some thicker spots. I want to kind of thin those out so that I can see the flowers better. So you're just going to go back over it, start from the left side, you're always going to want to go one way. So if you start on the left and you're dragging your paint to the right, you don't want to start on the right and drag it to the left. You want to drag the same way every time. So I'm going to go back through here. I'm going to press a little bit harder to kind of smear that paint out. Make sure I'm getting it all off, and you'll end up with paint, a lot of paint on your ruler, which is totally fine. And you'll also end up with paint on the paper. That's why you are going to need to cover your workspace this time. Now, I do have a little bit right here that I want covered. I really don't want a lot of paper showing, so I'm going to flip it around, and just for this edge, I'm going to turn my paper and I'm going to go the other way. Just a little tiny bit, and that's going to get the rest of that paper. I'm going to turn it back around, and I'm going to do one more pass all the way from the left to the right. And I'm finished. There is a really cool water lily print. Fun way to paint Claude Monet's water lilies. I'm going to show you how to do the water again because it can be tricky. I'm going to set that one aside to dry. I'm going to take my towel and just kind of wipe off all this excess paint because I'm going to do it again, so I'm going to be adding more paint, so I don't want a lot of paint on here. I'm just going to kind of wipe that off for now. Alright, we'll go back to this one. This one's had a few minutes to dry, so I think it'll be okay. Again, we're going to take our blue paint, and not right on the edge, but really close to the edge. We're going to run a little thick line of blue paint all the way down. Okay, again, leave a little bit of space, and you want enough paint to where when you push it to the other side, it's going to cover your whole paper. I got it really messy, this ruler. Good thing it'll wash. All right, I'm going to lay it, set it down firmly on my paper, then I'm going to tilt it to an angle, and I'm just going to drag that paint all the way across. Now you'll see that these flowers were a little wetter. They didn't have quite enough time to dry, so you'll get a little bit more of the smeared colors through there. I got a lot of blue paint on this. I'm going to go one more time over the whole thing. I'm going to get some of that excess paint off. Then I'm going to flip it, and I'm just going to do this little bitty edge right here because you have a lot of paint still on your ruler from running it all the way across your paper. You just need to do it a little bit. I'm going to wipe this excess paint off, and I'm going to make one more pass across my water lily paper. Just like so. There we go. A beautiful water lily paper. I am a little messy. You probably will get messy too. You can reuse these. They do stay better if you want to throw all your food items in a Ziploc bag and have mom or dad put them in the refrigerator for you. Then you can get them back out and paint. If you leave them out overnight, I kind of left this out overnight, so it's kind of rubbery, but it did still work. Your flowers can be gently rinsed off and reused, or you can save them and put them back in water and they will be fine. I hope you had lots of fun learning how to make a really cool water lily paper with food and flowers. Happy painting!